And we welcome Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, can you hear us? Yes.
Hi.
Nice to see you. What a beautiful women we are today. You are so welcome to this celebration time for the book, The Intuitive, in English today. On Saturday, we will have a book release here in Ystad in south of Sweden, physical, with some of the writers from the book. And Nanna, who is with us today, she will participate on Saturday too. But today we will celebrate in English, and we have had 4 English writers in this third of our anthology series. Anna Kuni couldn't join us today, but we have Nanna Aida Svendsen here today. You can wave. And we have Monica Bryant with us today, and Greta. You are so welcome. We are recording this, so I will make a YouTube film later, so all the rest of us can look at your this celebration time. We wait a couple of minutes more because I know more people will arrive. In the meantime, Nanna, can you just shortly present this theme, the intuitive, shortly in your way, with your words?
Taken at least a whole book, and even then, surely, she said. Well, it just seems to me that it's such a powerful time, and it's a time of so much change and so much insecurity. And where can one turn when the outer world is in turmoil? Well, you can turn within, and you can find the trustworthy wisdom place inside you, and you can learn to listen to the whispers of the universe and the soft voice of your own soul for guidance, which will constantly be on your side. And so I think the learning is to learn to receive that, to listen to it, to trust it. And the book is really all about that. All the 13 authors are describing in various ways their experience of the intuitive and their experience of finding it and following it. And sometimes it's easy and very direct, and sometimes it's more nebulous in its communication, and there is learning to do to distinguish the voice from the intuition from the voice of the mind with all its ideas of how the world should be and how we should be, because intuition is way deeper than that. So I think it's a really interesting time, and I think that many of us are being called to awaken to this deeper wisdom within, and called to awaken to the side of us that can receive it and can listen for it. So instead of enforcing will all the time, because intuition isn't about will, it's about listening, receiving, and following and honoring. So that's a little bit of what I had to say about intuition. Does anybody else have something?
Thank you so, Nanna. You will all have the time to speak today. I just want to read shortly from the back page of the book, so you who haven't heard about this book can understand a little bit more what's about. 13 authors write about intuition in this multidimensional anthology. These are challenging times. The questions facing us individually and collectively are profound. How do we best cherish ourselves, one another, and life on Earth now? Many of the old ways and cultural habits no longer serve us. Where shall we turn when the world around us does not support what a deeper part of us knows, needs, and longs for? Could the answer lie in our tuning into our inner knowing? Yeah, that's a great question. And Imagine being able to fully trust your intuition and fully follow the inner voice that is so eagerly waiting to be highlighted more in our lives. Imagine. Today, when we all have the opportunity to expand our thinking, increase our awareness and experience radical changes on several levels, our intuition can help us to contribute to a better understanding of ourselves and our surroundings. Today, many believe that humanity is heading into an intuitive era. And based on the understanding that everything is made of energy, the step is not far to realize that intuition is our most important and precious tool. Intuition is to understand deep from within oneself. So we need the intuition today, and we all use it, but we have to be aware of it, because inside of us all there is a treasure, and you can only find it by yourself. And that's what the 13 writers will tell you about in this book. And today we have Nanna, Monica, and Greta here to explain about the intuition a little bit more. And I would like to present them a little bit better. And we start with Nanna. And I read from the book so you can go back and check. So I read it.
And you can remind me who I am.
Yeah, I will. Nanna Aida Svendsen is an explorer and map maker of the inner realms, writer and poet. And Nanna's passion is linking consciousness with the heart and feeling into the emergent, naming where consciousness wants to evolve and what might be getting in the way. Some more is coming, so I have to. Welcome, Leslie. You are with us, and I am just presenting Nanna Aida Svendsen. You will start the discussion later on, Nanna, and so I will continue and present Monica a little bit more. Monica Bryant has provided her unique evolutionary consulting and coaching since '94. She offers a transpersonal perspective in support of inner and outer evolution. And you will tell us more about that and how intuition works in your life. And then we have Greta Brook. And Greta is a psycho-spiritual teacher, spiritual midwife, vibrational healer, writer, archetypical psychologist, and pioneer in women's spirituality. Wow, that's great. What a woman, what a woman you are. So today we're going to celebrate, and this book is born, and it's a very important book for your soul. It's a tool for your soul, so you can reach your inner voice. And it's written in both English and Swedish. So I will welcome you, Nanna, and you can talk and tell us a little bit more what intuition means to you in your life right now.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, for the invitation of being here, and for the invitation of participating in this book, because the idea originally was yours, and for being the manifester of this unique anthology. For me, it's been a great privilege not only to work with you, I've enjoyed it. We've done a number of books together now.
Yes.
And I'm a poet, and you've published a number of my poetry books, and I will inevitably read a poem or two, because I have a poem or two in this book. But also it's super sweet for me to be with Monica and with Greta. And actually, very sweet that you showed up as well, Cheryl, because you're all really old friends. And it's such a powerhouse of the feminine to be here with you and with Leslie too. And I just want to say a few words. Monica, we've known each other since university. That's going back to the 70s. I'm a bit older than you, but that is where we met. And we have always had a passion in consciousness, in thinking outside of the box, in depth psychology, and understanding more of who we are and how the universe operates. You have more of a scientific bent than do I, but the passion has always been similar. And Greta, I met in 89, I think, when I fell in love with an American man. See, intuition took me to the United States. And I was living in Denmark and I was not happy. And I would meditate and a little voice said, go to Boston, go to Boston, go to Boston. And I went, and within a week of being there, I met my true love. And that took me to Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it wasn't long after that we met. And because you were running a Centre for Consciousness in Cambridge. And we also shared this passion for healing, for insight, for depth psychology, for freedom, for authenticity, for a vision of a world that the heart knew is possible, even if we don't always see it around us, and for inhabiting that and helping bring it through. And I met Cheryl at a similar time. So it's very sweet for me to see you here. And so we have really grown up together in some ways. And so it feels very special and very dear that you both are contributing to this book. And I've, over the years, felt really blessed by the insights that both of you have. I feel like you've helped me refine my intuition, because I could come to either one of you with an issue and we could tune into it onto a deeper level. What is the message here? What is the body trying to tell us? What do we feel is going on in the collective? Because we've shared that, of not only wanting to know about the personal, but wanting to know about the collective as well. What's happening? And to see this remarkable experience of how often we're going through similar themes, similar trends at the same time. And I was noticing, I was speaking with Monica a little bit before this call, and we were both like, what are we going to say today? It was like, going to trust intuition that whatever it is that needs to be said will be said. And there's something about being willing to trust this deeper wisdom inside all the time, moment to moment. Where am I called to now? What am I called to say now? Who am I choosing to connect with now? And I often find that intuition reveals itself without my knowing it, but it will show up spontaneously. I was just about to call Monica and you called me, for example. You know, I didn't think about that, but there was a congruence there that was very beautiful. And I'm finding increasingly that intuition is just, it's the best friend. And when I get into trouble, it's when I let my worried mind, and I have a worrying kind of mind, take over with its fears or with its memories of how and who I'm supposed to be. And then it starts dictating to me. And the dictation from my mind is not friendly for the most part. It has a tendency to be critical. It has a tendency to scare me. There's a different kind of information from my mind which can be aligned to my deeper knowing, where it is accurately describing what is taking place. And that's beautiful and exquisite. And I love it. I love my mind for that. But I don't like it when it's clawing around in a frantic way, trying to make me repeat things that I did in the past that don't even really apply to the present moment, to really being here now. And, you know, it's been a challenging couple of years. And my experience is that under stress, I am anyway, more likely to go to my old survival patterns. And one of the learnings of this year has very much been to not go there, to kind of go, oh, hi, survival pattern, I know you, and I'm choosing something else. So it's an ongoing practice, in my experience, to follow one's intuition, and it's invaluable to have dear ones that you trust who will support you in that quest and won't go, please don't evolve as a human being. I don't want you to change. I want you to mend my life. I don't want you to take care of your life, which is something that many of us, particularly women, have had to deal with. And even in the cultures sometimes, don't individuate, you know, and it's at a huge cost. I'm not talking about the ego separate from everything else. I'm talking about very, very, very profound communion with the essence of who we are. And I came across somebody, by the way, you need to keep a slight eye on the time with me, because once I get going, you know. So I came across a quote by Howard Thurman, which I love, and which I'm going to read to you, and which I think is very appropriate for the moment. There is in you something that waits. There is in you something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have, the only true guide you will ever have. And it seems to me that this is very much the time of waiting. It often takes waiting. It's not full speed ahead always. And the wisdom of insight sometimes takes time to grow. I remember somebody saying, whilst you wait, you're not doing nothing. You're allowing your soul to grow. You need to allow processes to evolve and grow, and for intuition to find you. And then have the courage to follow it, to honor it. Even though it might take you to places I hadn't expected to move to Boston, to be honest. And that little voice in my meditation, go to Boston, it took me many months to actually act on that. But oh boy, when I did. And my chapter is really about, has a lot of that story and other stories too, about the way in which intuitive knowing has revealed itself to me. And that particular chapter, my particular chapter, ends with a poem called Listen Deeply. And I printed it out. It is in the book, but I just like it a bit larger print so I can read it because it's not so light where I'm sitting right now. It's called Listen Deeply, and I will read it to you. And if there's time later, I will read you another one about how to listen for the soft voice of the soul. We'll see how we go. But this is the first one, Listen Deeply. Listen deeply to the soft voice of your soul. It knows who you are, even when lonely, how intimately you belong. Its wisdom resounds beneath the nagging of your shame and guilt and fear. The tender presence of your core brings solace when needed, a sense of rightness when remembered, communion when close. The sound of your original voice calls you to essence, calls you to essence, over and over again. Sometimes with such vital vulnerability, you would weep. Sometimes with fiery ferocity, it requires you to awaken. It requires you to awaken. Sometimes with much softness, it calls for your surrender. Yes. Listen deeply to the gifted grace of your soul. Listen deeply to the gifted grace of your soul. And in the listening, may the beauty of your life be revealed. So with that, I will, if you are amenable to the idea, Greta, pass the baton over to you.
Beautiful, Nanna. Really beautiful.
Thank you. Oops, I can't hear you. Can you hear Greta? Can't hear you, Greta.
Hello.
There you are.
Okay. All right. I was saying you have such a lovely energy when you read, Nanna. Very transporting and very meditative. Anyway, very much your soul, which is also fiery. So it's a mix. So, yeah, what do I say? I guess I would say that for me, being a student of myth and archetypal psychology, I would have to say that, you know, you don't get intuition without opening, and that means diving into the feminine, allowing that dimension of yourself to awaken. And that's a hard thing to do when it's such a troubled world and you're moving at a fast pace, or the world demands you do. It's a very, or at least especially in Western society, very masculine world. So how do we, you know, there carve out the time to be still, which is where you begin to listen and open and find intuition. So intuition begins in what I would call just stopping and being still. And then you can begin to hear that small voice within, and you can feel it. Feel your discontent, feel something's not right in your life. But it starts with stopping. And to me, this stillness is the deep feminine. And it's one of the most radical acts of reform we can do is to meditate, be still, go into that pause that allows us to find our essence and to commune with our subconscious and the wounded bits and to become one with ourselves. So, and in the process, become one with everything. Go into a state of interbeing, where we understand that dragonfly that showed up on our, you know, windowsill and wouldn't go away, that's a message, you know. Or that coyote that's crossing your yard and just stops and looks at you. There's a message. It isn't all coming through people and books, and although it is that too. So it's coming from everything. And I wrote a poem which I included in the book, but I would just also say that every religion has its feminine dimension. I mean, in Asian cultures, there's so much emphasis on meditation and Qigong or Tai Chi. Or in India, so much emphasis on yoga, preparing yourself to go into meditation. And in the Christian tradition, which has been largely lost, it's much more dutiful. And I'd say there's been a real suppressing of the feminine in Christian and in Muslim traditions. And when you suppress, hi Telly, when you suppress the feminine, you know, in the culture, you lose the gifts of the feminine. So for me, there's a beautiful word, and it's Aramaic, and some believe it sums up Jesus's teachings, and the word is ephaphatha. It's a great word, ephaphatha, which means be opened. And I think of Jesus as very much the prophet of Sophia and the Divine Mother, or the goddess anyway. So anyway, what does it mean to be opened? And what does it mean in our times to be open and to experience your own trauma history or your own pain and the suffering of the world? It's not an easy thing to do. It takes support from others and loved ones, and sometimes from people who are teachers and are gifted in supporting that opening. So my poem, which just kind of popped out of me in my little side yard here, it's called The Beautiful Conversation.
And sorry, Greta, it's in the book, right?
It's in the book, yes.
It's in the book. Thank you.
And it comes, I would say, my experience of intuition is I'm on a path of knowing, a sacred sensing. What does it mean to begin to trust, not just be a mind walking around, but to really do enough healing work so you can be in your hearts and you can be in your bodies. You can get those somatic clues that are coming from those gut hunches or warnings. And sometimes they come as fear, but a lot of times they come as yes, your yes. Follow that yes. So what does it mean to be an open receiver? To be open. I mean, this is a challenge. And yet this is where we get all our creative inspiration. This is where we begin to blend with universal guidance, teachings, where we begin to get answers to our deepest existential questions, our new insights. Anyway, here's my poem. The Beautiful Conversation. I sit in my garden and listen to the soul speak all around me. I eavesdrop on flowers as they whisper radiant colors to pollinating partners. Birds negotiate boundaries with bursts of melodies. That's my little adopted bird there, rescue bird. While ecstatic bees hop from flower to flower, loading up on pollen, buzzing to each other about their great good fortune. And now my gifted neighbor caresses his flute, and the magic he creates reveals not only his soul, but mine as well. All life speaks a quantum language of connection. We breathe in the streams of communication, some distressed and others joyous, each of us impacted, no matter how big or small, by everything else. Try as we might to shut it out, we are designed this way. We take it all in, ingest the entire spectrum, the magnificent electromagnetic rivers of energy that continually ebb and flow from all beings. I am glad I speak the language of oneness. I flutter with my own vibrational field, entrained, entangled, and enthralled. I breathe in and breathe out, breathe in and breathe out. The beautiful conversation as the continual hum of paradise lives on in each of us. So from my heart to yours, my soul to yours.
Thank you.
And Monica, do you want to share something?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Greta. That was very heartwarming and special as ever from you. And hello, everybody there. And for those of you who don't know me, I just wanted to first say that I'm actually half Swedish. And I would say that it's been a wonderful experience working with you, Yvonne, and my first experience of Siljans Måsar. And I have to say, Yvonne brings enchantment, beauty, and a beautiful grace to the whole journey from start to finish for creating a book. And that's been very special. So big thank you, Yvonne. And thank you, Nanna, also for a lovely, beautiful introduction, and just to say great gratitude for our friendship and the fact that we've also had a chance to share the journey through this anthology together. And I'd obviously love to acknowledge Greta and you, Cheryl, too, because I've known you both there via Nanna for a long time, and just the celebration that here we all are together as wise ones on the planet, so to speak. And I just want to say this anthology is so timely. I describe in my chapter intuition as an evolutionary impulse. And again, I'd like to honor Yvonne for having this very accurate timing of this evolutionary impulse to bring together a group of international women. And as I wrote at the very end of my chapter, it was wise women to share the love and light of their insights, the golden threads of intuition, weaving a web of wisdom to further expand the field of intuition. And although I'm starting at the end here, I don't know if you can see this picture, but this was a high moment for me at the end of being immersed in this work, was to come up with the concept and idea of the Intunet, which is the intuition within and intuition that connects each of us, and then the world or the wisdom wide web. So I'm going to hold up this picture and see if you can see there is this beautiful big spark of light, huge spark. And that for me represents this book, because it's a synergy of bringing together all of our voices and all of our consciousness, giving birth to the multifaceted dimensions of intuition. And I would say I went off to university at 60 years old, and I thought I'd go back and do an MA, and I was privileged to do an MA on myth, cosmology and the sacred. And that was very exciting, because following 40 years of running my own business and consulting work and being thoroughly ground down as well, it was a great liberation to go off and study, and also to see through my research, which I carried out through my MA, but also for this chapter, to really see the emergence of intuition in its many forms through so many subject areas and different domains of life. And so one of the themes in my chapter is really seeing this renaissance, this incredible springtime for intuition and deeper knowing and wisdom after a very, very long winter of being suppressed. And that's been very joyful and given me a lot of hope. And one sentence I wrote too in my chapter was, this is a time of rebirth, especially for those who are introverts and intuition-led, including highly sensitive people, empaths, creative outsiders, because there is now more awareness and appreciation, I should say, of our or their strengths and insightful gifts. So I feel very excited as a result of writing the chapter, and also placing intuition in this bigger context as an evolutionary impulse. And we all know about intuition, that's not new, but when it's very slippery, difficult concept or word or experience to pin down, it can be quite slippery and quite on the move. So I wanted to go deeper into exploring the essence of intuition itself, and having a background in transpersonal psychology and archetypal psychology, and after much reflection of all the possible archetypes that play into intuition in so many ways, I came up with Hermes or Mercury as being the central archetypal energy field, if you like, behind intuition. And this for me was a really lovely moment, just to know that I could deepen into how intuition transcends time and space. It moves beyond, before, behind. And as you all know, Hermes and Mercury is the messenger, and brings healing and transformation, and is a guide for the soul, it's a guide of souls. So that was a lovely moment that I just wanted to share with you right now. And I just want to honor the elders for a moment. I felt it was very important to just look back through history, and there are many significant figures, and I felt sad for all the key people that I didn't get space to give voice to. But my two most significant elders that I honored were the work of Goethe and Jung. And there's a lineage there from Goethe through into Jung, just to really recognize their role as pioneers in languaging and naming and articulating this very difficult subject of intuition, and using and working with their own intuitions and having the courage to follow their intuition. So there's many more things I could say, but I just want to perhaps complete with that I looked at the movement away from and how we're evolving towards. So in terms of an evolutionary balancing, there's obviously, this is not new, and Goethe loved polarities, and so did Jung, and polarities are always important is the sacred marriage and the transcendence of polarities for something new to emerge. And so we're moving now from this time of thinking rationally into intuition, from moving from shallow to deep, from reductionistic thinking into holistic, from seeing fixed forms as solid and fixed, and now to seeing life as more dynamic and flowing, and moving from short-term thinking into more long-term thinking, and obviously from a more mechanistic worldview to an organismic, organic unfolding. And with intuition, we see how that fits into a shift from very outer directed life into an inner directed life, and so on and so on. I could say many more things, but perhaps the final thing would be the shift from an ego-based way of being to a soul-based way of being. Now, I've written plenty more about this in my chapter, and there's more I could share, but I just want to celebrate just the things that have popped up spontaneously for me now, and just feel this is a very special moment as this book comes out at this particular time.
Yeah, wow, what a wisdom you all have inside you. Skål in Swedish. Skål for this beautiful book and for you who brought so much wisdom to us, all the readers. Skål. Do you have your glasses? Yes. Greta is running for her champagne glass, I think. We have to wait for her.
Mm-hmm.
There she is. Skål, Greta. Skål. Skål. And I'm so grateful that you visitors, listeners are here. And I do have a question to you three writers, because many people ask me, when learning to listen more to the intuitive, how do we not fall into the traps of the ego? Nanna, do you want to start your answer? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, unmute me. Yeah, you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Well, the willingness to be aware is key, and to notice when you have when you think you have an intuition, notice where it seems to be sourced, in your head, in your body, somewhere beyond the body. And I find that if I'm following the ego, if I'm following the mind, it's very subtle, but there's a tension to it. There's a lack of aliveness to it. And when I reconnect with something deeper and something truer to me, there's a sense of aliveness to it, even in sorrow, even in grief. And so one of the things to note is whether does this idea seem to bring you alive or not, or this notion or this sense, does it bring you alive or does it deaden you? And I have a very simple thing that I've been using for years, out of the sense that the body, the heart, they know very quickly the accuracy of something. And so if I'm thinking about something, I find, a small thing, do I want to go to the store and right now, immediately, without thinking anything, frown, grim look, do I want to sit here and continue this conversation with you all? Big smile, automatic. That's very simple, but I have found it to be incredibly trustworthy. Do I want to go to Stockholm? Do I want to stay here in southern Sweden? Do I want to go and run a seminar somewhere? I've been invited somewhere far away. So that's one of the things that you can do. Notice what happens in your body in response to something that you have. And notice what happens when you start to follow it. And I mean, intuition can guide you to some tricky things at times, because I know that my intuition sometimes seems to guide me to the unresolved wound. It's as though the deepest soul place in me wants me to be as free as possible. And it will rub up against places where I haven't really brought consciousness or awareness to things. So it's back to what Greta was talking about, that it's quite a journey to own and connect and live with your intuition, because it requires healing and it requires awareness. And I could read a quick poem a little bit about that. Is the time? Can I do that?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Called Falling Down. It's in my chapter. And it speaks to the idea that if you want to fall into intuition, intuition is in, just listen to the word, in. It's not outtuition, it's intuition. And you need to fall in, and you need to fall into the heart so you can receive the messages that intuition wants to give you. And you need to heal the heart where it's wounded so that you can be a pure receptor. And this is falling down, because you see, our culture is usually very much wants us to stay up, shine, be busy, go fast. And as I think Greta also suggested, that the essence of finding your intuition is to be still and quiet and receptive. And if you're really too busy all the time, you won't have a chance to receive that wisdom. Anyway, this is falling down. We try so hard to stay up, to keep from falling down. Yet there is a falling into ourselves, a falling into ourselves that is of the essence. There is a tumbling into the heart that means we must open to our beauty, but also to our pain. Without a willingness to surrender to the flow of feelings, receive them with compassion, we may never come to know that sweet source of oneness with ourselves. If you won't receive your feelings with compassion, you won't get yourself. That simple bliss in being beneath all our distress. Without a willingness to surrender and turn attention to the quiet that underlies the turmoil of the mind, we may never come to know the sweet sense of oneness with existence, that sweet sense of love and trust and flow. We try so hard to stay up, yet there is a falling down that is of the essence. So I hand over to one of my other colleagues. I just want to point out two things before I do. One, I'm so touched by the wholeness of all of us together. I mean, everything that any one of you have said is like, I agree with that. No, I could have said that. Or so it's very lovely, that dance. The other thing that just seems significant to me, just to name, is I'm in Sweden, Monica is in England, Yvonne is in Sweden, and Greta is in the United States. So it really is a wisdom wide web here, a worldwide wisdom web.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Thank you, Nanna. Thank you. And Greta, do you have an answer for the question?
I'm realizing we're moving on time here, so I'll just say quickly that I think, to me, intuition is actually something that happens as you begin to I like the term ensoulment, as you begin to embody the soul, as you go on a quest of wholeness. It is a gift, and you begin to open, and I see the soul as ensouling this way, so these centers, as they open, as we become a mystic, as we go on a search for answers, and as we go into this dance of listening all the time, listening and looking for clues and having beautiful new insights. But we have to keep de-densifying. We have to do our trauma work, and it's multi-generational trauma work. And this is a lot my message to my students and people I work with is this. It's a dance. It's an expansion and a contraction. We have to keep going into the wounds, and we're doing the work of our multiple generations before us. We've been a warring and very fraught with pain and fear and so much childhood trauma. So I would say that as we do our inner work, we expand. It's like a beautiful, flowers, like the lotus, we open. And as we open, all of our chakras, all of our centers flower, and we know stuff. We get hits. We're intuitive. We suddenly are vibrating at this other level where everything, we not only are in touch with a lot and experiencing the beautiful synchronicities and the language of guidance around us, but we're also in a very beautiful dialogue with our souls, with our essential natures, with our true natures. And we keep undressing, taking that off. And, I don't need that, And the more we undress, the more we become this beautiful, one-of-a-kind being who is radiant and perfect and everything. I mean, each being. I had an experience of unconditional love driving home after a day of work through Davis Square in Cambridge or Somerville. And as I drove, the doors blew open. It's all about doors of perception. The doors blew open, right? The portals. And everyone was perfect. No single person wasn't perfect. Every single person, every dog, every cat, I was in awe. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. I started to weep, and luckily I was driving slowly because it was rush hour. But it's like, if we could only see through those eyes, see ourselves that way, marvel at our own beauty and marvel at each other, the world would be different. And I think that's the era we're moving into, the awakening of the heart, so we can really perceive from those eyes. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Greta. So wise, so wise. I take it to my heart. Thank you. And Monica, do you have an answer for the question of how we not fall the traps to the ego?
Yes, I absolutely have a few comments to make there. In my chapter, I shared that we all have a natural tendency or a predisposition to how we best work with our intuition. For some people, it's more physical and kinesthetic, and some more through the emotional self and the spiritual self, and then also the mental realm too. You get in intuition and intellect coming together, and intuitive intellectuals. Now, so I think it's the answer really ultimately is self-knowledge, and the more we're on the path, the more we've self-reflected and really come to know ourselves, and that's absolutely the key. I share a couple of pages in the chapter where I go away from the big picture to my very personal experience of how I've cultivated my own intuition and my own intuitive style. And Jung also elaborated on how with introversion and extroversion, you get different tendencies and how intuition shows itself. But for me, Nanna and I, we both started with meditation back in the 70s. And I think when you've had that practice every morning for decades, that there's an anchoring into a deeper transcendental space or knowing or awareness. And so, but it's ultimately about witnessing and reflecting, and the times when ego has got in and we got it wrong, so to speak, with making an important decision and so on. But the exciting thing is that we all have a capacity to cultivate our own intuitive style, really, and that's the exciting part of it. And the more we're conscious, the less likely we're going to fall into the trap of the ego.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's great to hear. We learned so much. And actually, I have a big smile in my face, because here we are creating room for the silent intuition. And outside my window, they are laying new asphalt on the road with heavy, big machines. I haven't never seen so big machines in my life. And you know, the vibration, so my whole space is vibrating here. It's vibration healing, Greta. And that's what intuition is. When we create a calm room inside us, the world will go on. And these polarities, we have to accept them and love them and live with them, because life is now and everything is in the same time, the silent and the noise. So I'm in the vibration between intuition and the world going on right now. Big smile. That was just a short notice. Now I will ask you, dear listeners, darlings, do you have any questions for those three wise women? You can unmute yourself if you want to.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
we hear you.
I don't have a question, but I just was inspired by this topic, and I work in a school system, and I have a lot of adolescent boys around me who are challenged by their own, conditioning, and a lot of it is very challenging. And I'm just looking for my intuition to lead me to how best to connect with these mostly young men, a few girls, but just trying to help them to connect with themselves and with me as a female, white person, just trying to find the commonalities between us and connect with them and help them reach their fullest potential. So I love the topic this morning, and thank you very much for inviting me. Someone sent me the link to this, so I took a little bit of time this morning at my workplace to listen in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie, for being here with us today. Thank you so much. Okay, do we have more questions? I hope you have enjoyed this topic, and I have, really. You can always learn something new about the intuition, but you have to do the work by yourself. Greta, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify one thing, and I don't know if this will help you at all, Leslie, but it comes to mind that it isn't about, I think the goal is this is a separate thing from what you're talking about, but it leads into, for me, the goal is this wholeness, is being the person that you are, and so that, and to me, there's a way in which it isn't about not having an ego, it's about working with the wounded ego, so that we can continually expand and be the whole person. And I think these are teenage kids. This is a really intense time of stretching identity and encouraging them in all kinds of creative ways to participate in how they, and I'm also expressive arts therapist, how they might talk about who they are, all the different things they love, and really helping them to look at themselves as complex beings rather than, and to break out of conditioning that narrows them into something small. So, and I just wanted to make that point that I see the container of the ego continually flowering until it can be a container of the whole self, the soul, so, and we're multi-dimensional, very complex beings. And so kids need to know it's okay to love this, hate that, to to be really sensitive if you're a boy, and to really love things that maybe the culture around you doesn't support. Anyway, to give them freedom of expression, finding ways to work with them with arts and writing and poetry and so forth. Anyway, just a thought.
Thank you.
That's great, Greta. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. It was very, I'm grateful for this moment with you. Thank you so much. And I thank you, Nanna and Monica and Greta, for giving us so much wisdom. It was wonderful to listen to. And please spread the word about this book. You can buy it by Greta in the United States and by Monica in Great Britain, and here in Sweden by me. And for new listeners, my name is Yvonne Månsson, and I run a publishing house called Siljans Måsar since 2008 in south of Sweden. And on my website, siljansmasar.com, you can buy the book too. We send it worldwide. So thank you so much, everybody who listened to us today. And I wish you a great day with a lot of exciting intuition in your life. Use it. Use it. Thank you so much. Thank you all. See you. And I will put the link on Facebook for this recording.
Thank you.
You have to unmute yourself, Nanna, if you want to say something.
You were going to make a YouTube of it?
Yes.
Also? Yeah, and you'll send that.
Yeah, I send you the link.
Fantastic.
And I put it on Facebook too.
Fantastic.
All that you do, Yvonne, and
Yes.
ways that you make venues for all of us too.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. You know that. See you all. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so. Bye.
Bye bye.